Welcome to Module 4, the last of the modules before the final exam. It's the last big module. It's 5 weeks. There's 5 goals, and so this is kind of the last of the modules. As far as it goes, this one is going to basically take and say, one of the problems we always have with arguments is it's hard sometimes to look at just the inferential claim without looking at the inferential claim, without looking at the factual claim. And so if you have true premises and then you have a true conclusion, a lot of times you're like, must be a valid argument. But that's not necessarily the case. And sometimes you have false premises, and so you automatically assume it's a false argument. Well, no, not necessarily. You can have a valid argument. You can have an argument form that works. And so what we do is we remove all that. We learn a set of 5 symbols. We learn a symbol for and, a symbol for not, a symbol for or, a symbol for if, then, and a symbol for if and only if. And so what we do is we learn those 5 symbols. We can translate sentences into, or complex sentences into statements using these lettering system. And we can then draw conclusions about what we know about logic, or we can draw conclusions from it. Now, what happens is, we do that, we symbolize it, and so the first week you really need to learn how to symbolize it. You need to know, that this thing that looks like a triple bar is called a biconditional, means if and only if. You need to learn that this little thing called a horseshoe that looks like a horseshoe means if this, then that. And you need to learn things like the tilde means not, the dot means and, it's called a conjunctive, things like that. You need to be able to do that so you can kind of take a sentence and know what it means, and know what it means backwards, both ways. Then what we do is we figure out that if we know the truth value of the part, like if I have A and B, and I know A is true and I know B is true, then I know A and B is true. I know it's a function. The truth value of the statement is a function of the truth value of the parts. And so we do that, and then we use truth tables to evaluate statements, compare statements, and determine validity based upon that. The truth tables can be very long. They can be very, I don't want to say complex, but they can be very tedious, I think is the right word. They can be very much, you got to do a lot of little T's and F's and write these things down, and it can be very tedious to get it right. So that's the next part. And then finally, we get to what we call natural deduction. And natural deduction, we give you an argument, we tell you it's valid, but what you have to do is you have to figure out why is it valid, and you have to follow the inferential steps to go step by step to see how that argument works out to be valid. And what you'll do is you'll find out, oh, the reason it's valid is because you do this and this and then that, and you know the conclusion. And so that's kind of just following the process, making your brain get into the argument and follow it through. And that's the last step. So that's kind of the way it goes. It's kind of the first part, learn the symbolization. Next part's using truth tables, and the next part is what we call natural deduction.